I'm going to do a video today on how to use a caulking gun. These are all basically the same, little variation on them, but generally they'll all be pretty much the same. What you have here is a release button, and you notice if I grab onto this here, our plunger will move a certain amount, but if I really want to let it move freely, I'll push that trigger in and move it back and forth like that. So what you want to do here is hit your release trigger, push that plunger back in. I'm just trying to show it in the camera here, but you would generally push it from back at this point. And get that trigger there. This one's a little rusted up, but it'll work fine. Take your tube of caulking. I'm using silicone here. Generally pretty cheap stuff, $5–6 a tube, something like that, in Canada anyway. It's December of 2014, and that's what I paid for this tube of silicone, was $6. So once I slide it in, you notice at the end of it, you want the end of that tube, where my thumb is, to be set into the end of the gun, so like that. Once you get it in place, you start pulling the trigger on it, and you notice that the plunger is moving into the tube, tightening up there as I pull that trigger. Okay, so now the plunger is seated against it. As I pull the trigger here, it's seated. So at that point, what we want to do is cut the end off of our tube. You're gonna, depending on what you're filling, you're gonna want to cut this fairly big, depending on how big of a bead of silicone you want to run along whatever you're doing. So it's gonna be a little difficult from this angle here, but I usually cut about a 45-degree angle on that. See if I can do this without knocking my camera over here. Watch your fingers, of course. Okay, now that we have that cut off, what we have to do is put a nail or a screwdriver or something down inside here to break the seal of the silicone inside. So normally I would use a nail because I can just throw it in the garbage, but I have a little screwdriver handy here. Now the other thing is too, when I'm actually just going to release the pressure on this plunger here because I don't want the silicone to come squirting out there. So I'm just going to hit that button like that. You notice it's loose in there now. And I'm just going to, what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of pressure just to keep it tight there. Now, with that done, I'll stick my screwdriver down in there. You can see it going through the end. Apply a little bit of force. You hear that pop, and that will have broken the seal of the silicone. These disposable gloves are great to have when you're doing this kind of thing too, by the way. Okay, so now if I start pulling the trigger here, I'm going to put this old piece of styrofoam underneath here to catch it. As I pull the trigger, first I got to pull it pretty hard there. Let's go back and forth like that, and then you'll see the silicone squirt out. Now you're going to want to ease onto it more than I did there. I come onto that fairly hard because I'm kind of at a crazy angle here behind my tripod. Now that plunger is still putting pressure on the silicone. You can see it's still coming out of the end. So if I hit my trigger, this button back here, that releases the pressure. So that's the basic idea of it, and now we're going to run some silicone on a little bit of a project that we're making for another video, which is our beer can solar heater. So I'm just going to run some silicone there, and we'll show you how to run the bead. Okay, so here's our beer can solar heater from our other video, the project. We're making one from scratch in the other video, but this was my first attempt at one of these, and what I want to do is run silicone along these lines here and then place this plastic over to seal that in, because underneath I want the air going through there through our beer cans, which heating up, and then through here. Anyway, so it never hurts to just run a little practice bead along something. Just kind of gives you an idea how quickly it's going to come out. Hopefully you can see that coming, that silicone coming out there on that piece of styrofoam. I did that. I want to release the pressure again so it doesn't come out too quickly I should say. And basically you just recall how we made a 45-degree angle on our tip there. I'm just going to place that along with whatever it is you're running your bead along here, like so. Just kind of lay the edge of your caulking or silicone, whatever it is, along whatever you're putting against, like so. I also want a bead of it along here because I want to seal this area off with my plastic. Just kind of slowly go. I'm just putting a bit of pressure on the handle, on the trigger, not really coming onto that trigger very hard at all. You notice the silicone still kind of coming out of there, so I'll just put it over here where I want some also. Anyway, handy tool to use, and just run along there. Again, click your trigger to release the pressure when you're done. A lot of these tubes will have a little cover to put over it when you're done to seal it off. This one doesn't, so what I usually do is I'll keep the end I cut off, get rid of the excess on my glove like that, and then stick that end that I cut off just in there like that, and then the next time I go to use it I'll just haul that off.